Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's Fake Accents Unite. A bit of a different one this week. I am not joined by the ever-present Britisher. Unfortunately, I've had to send him off to the antiquities dealer to be appraised before his carbon dating on Wednesday. Obviously, he thinks that he's going on a date with someone called Carmen, but we won't tell him that. I'm joined instead by the giggler. Sarah,
is that me or her?
daughter of Albion. Nice to have you on, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
And by Harry and Gladive, who some of you may remember from a long time ago, back when I used to do streams with Liberalists UK. He has an incredibly difficult to pronounce channel name.
Well, you nailed it, to be fair.
But he's worth going and having a look. He makes various political content as well, and I said I'd have him on tonight just for some good chat. And
thank you very much, and subscribe to PewDiePie.
Okay, yeah. Don't subscribe to Harry and Gladive. It's not worth your time. No. Anyway. Oh dear. There we go. Good evening, chat. The Eternal Britisher is not here. No, sir. But yes.
What do you reckon he's up to? Secret mission?
I suspect it's something. I've already told you what he's up to.
Oh, but of course, yes. It's on a date with the Carmen.
Well, no. He's going to be appraised.
He's gone to see Carmen.
He's going to get blinged up by his antiquities dealer. He's going to have the most fly grandfather clock on him when he goes to his date.
I wonder if he's a Christie's or a Sotheby's.
Christie's or Sotheby's? Oh, are these brands I'm supposed to know?
Auction houses. maybe it's an eBay. I don't know.
We're watching too much.
Never heard of Christie's. Yeah, maybe.
God. This is the most upper class thing I've been into for a while.
I'm going.
Don't leave me here with the common man. It's been an interesting week, to say the least. Particularly with things kicking off in France. But obviously people have been rioting in Paris, and it's been spreading across the country. And people don't seem to realize that France has been in a somewhat volatile period for a while now. So they've been having riots and protests on and off, basically, for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I think this tax that's just been hiked up, the green tax, which everyone's currently protesting about, is the straw that broke the camel's back rather than the instigating factor. You know, people in France don't hate climate change so much that they want to burn down the city,
but they should.
But they are protesting more widely about the overtaxation of the general public and that sort of thing.
Taxation theft.
Emmanuel Macron has responded, of course, in typical globalist European fashion, and said something along the lines of, "It's my way or the highway. Even if 99% of the French public were against it, I'd still be doing it because it's the quote-unquote right thing to do." So
dangerous.
Very dangerous talk.
Super democratic.
Yeah, you know it. And then he moaned at the protesters for expressing Brexit sentiment, and then had a go at the English
Brexit
and the British, you know, all that sort of thing. Frexit. Well, I heard. What was it like? There's so many little exit things going on at the moment. There was a lot of talk about a year ago about Swexit, where Switzerland, even though Switzerland isn't even in the EU, but it was like it was going to leave. It's connected in some ways, but it's not.
Yeah, it's got a weird deal of some sort.
In that sort of way. No.
Same in Norway as well, I think.
Parisian gasoline is $4.50 a gallon. New York gas is $1.80 a gallon.
Wow.
There is a significant difference in the fuel in Europe and the fuel in America, but yes. And obviously an American gallon is smaller than a European gallon. But the 150% tax on fuel is pretty insane.
So, is there any? What's the idea behind this? That it's meant to go toward discouraging people from having cars, supposedly.
Well, in the same manner as we have super congestion zones in London now. Or
Where, is that money? Is that money really being spent on what they're saying it's going to be spent on?
No, a lot of this is coming out of things like the Paris Climate Agreement.
Oh, God, dang it!
And that sort of thing. So people
Get
preparing it. One of the weirdest things is like these changes do a lot of damage to the poorest in society, obviously, because they're the ones typically who are doing the jobs which involve the most driving, and but also the largest polluters at the moment are India, China, parts of West Africa. So because Europe has cut a lot of its and South America to a degree, because Europe has cut a lot of its pollution.
Yeah, I think the UK add about 1.2% of the carbon dioxide being added at the moment. That's like nothing, really. So, yeah.
Come on, China.
There's that.
Yeah, China, literally.
So,
he's got to convince them, though. They're not having it.
They really won't.
No, they need to build up their economy. That's the problem.
I don't know. You can blame them, really.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the thing. Do you have poor people or do you have clean air? Like, yeah, you pick one or the other, and I'd pick not having poor people over having clean air.
The thing is that the wealthier and the better off your country becomes, the more it tends towards adopting greener policies anyway.
Yeah. So just make everyone rich. That's the answer.
Well, effectively, or at least create a world in which someone doesn't feel that they have to industrialize in order to get out of poverty. If you can stave off misery, most people are pretty happy and that sort of thing. So
I'd be impressed if you found a way to make an economy grow without industrialization.
I'm trying to think what country it is that because I was watching the Grand Tour last year when that came out on Amazon, and I'm not sponsored unfortunately. But
okay, what's that? That sounds good.
You
mean the Top Gear?
Top Gear,
yeah, effectively Top Gear. Okay. And they were in a city which had a pollution. They were outside they basically put their big tent up outside off the shore of a lake, and they were moaning. There was a warning that was put out this morning of smog in the air, and it's like one of the crispest, cleanest days you could possibly have. And then you've got like a picture of Uruguay or something like that in one of the smog cities. Just you can't see for the fog.
Yeah, it's pretty horrendous.
Sort of thing. But there we go. Talk about the UN Migration Pact. If you can get your plums out, your north and souths.
He's a north in this chat.
We've got a northerner in the chat.
Yeah, I'm northern.
But we've.
I guess I could hear it.
I'm a mank.
I wasn't sure if you had a cold.
We'll have a little bit of a chat about that later, but I do want to chat about UKIP first before we get too much into France and that sort of thing. So I'm going to just screen share now so that we can see that sort of thing. There we are. So UKIP leader Gerard Batten has survived a no confidence vote. Now, this, of course, coming because Gerard Batten decided that he was going to appoint Tommy Robinson as the special advisor on rape gangs and prison reform.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you follow Tommy Robinson quite a bit, don't you, Sarah? What are your thoughts on that particular move as well?
Well, I understand why he's done it, and I think he's been very. I really like Gerard Batten. Unfortunately, we're just back to the old optics thing, but it just surprises me the extent to which. When are people going to give up this whole Tommy Robinson's a Nazi thing? How much further can they go with that? I think the guy needs some credit, but I don't know. I don't know how and Nigel Farage has reacted very peculiarly to it. I'm not sure what to make of it, if I'm honest. I can understand why it's not going to look good for them just because of the ignorance of so many others. I don't know.
I think Farage is mainly dissenting because UKIP to him, as he ran it, was exclusively about Europe.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Tommy Robinson adds a dynamic, which Farage, whose optics have always been EU focused, is concerned about the potential destruction of the party he created, because I'm sure he's quite fond of it still.
Yes.
Or in drawing parallels, particularly to the BNP, which obviously destroyed itself with its own rhetoric.
Well, they're really not comparable to the BNP, and they have very strict laws in not allowing any from the BNP.
But politics and small parties in particular are quite fragile. So it's one of those things where he's afraid for his baby, I think.
Which is fair enough.
I don't know.
Welsh and Content says, fake news, BBC. They didn't call a no confidence vote, so he didn't survive it. They voted against calling.
Yeah,
I think that was overwhelmingly as well. Yeah.
So he survived a decision to have a vote of no confidence, basically, from the NEC.
UKIP said its ruling body had voted overwhelmingly against a motion of no confidence. Yes, however, it said it didn't endorse Robinson's appointment because he's barred from membership through his association with Young,
which is fair enough. In my opinion.
This is one of those real strange things, right? Which the BBC and other mainstream news outlets are always obsessed about doing, which is saying former EDL leader Mr. Robinson. Right, because you got to tie him to something which he hasn't been a part of for
5 years, I think.
And then real name Stephen Yaxley Leonard.
I know, he doesn't even have the Yaxley anymore.
Also, hasn't gone by that name in nearly 15 years. And you just go, at what point?
Do people? Do they think we don't know that that's his real name as well?
It's trying to, I guess, like, make him seem more disingenuous through sort of this implicit connection. He won't even go by his real name. Also, he's connected to this thing which he's not connected to anymore because he reviled the racism which arose in it, and he couldn't stand it anymore.
There's quite a lot of BNP members in the Labour Party, or MPs, ex-BNP, so they don't have any.
It's like the
Conservatives.
I can't remember how many. Genuine people who were in the Labour Party who were genuine communists, who had a real thing against Jews at one point as well, was a big thing.
No, I can't remember. Yeah, distant memory.
It was so they're talking about how he was jailed and all this rubbish. I mean, it happened, but naturally, it lacks nuance and context. And Batley said
Robinson, to be fair.
Sorry?
They always lack context for anything to do with Tommy Robinson.
You're not a fan?
I'm a fan of Tommy Robinson. I'm not a fan of the news articles they write about him.
I'm not a fan of some of Tommy Robinson's actions. I'm in total agreement with some of his principles and sort of what he's trying to stand for.
It's just relentless, though. The guy can do no right, despite... You'd think they'd at least give half of the grief. I mean, could anyone even name the guy who was leading the massive paedophile ring across the nation? No one knows his name. Maybe they should, But he's not really reviled as much as Tommy Robinson is. I find it very odd. I don't know.
There we go.
Who knows?
Mr. Robinson is expected to feature in a Brexit march on the 9th.
Oh, yes. Owen Jones is leading one against it.
Oh, yes.
Well, we will see, what is it, Tommy Robinson's 100,000 versus Owen Jones quoted 250,000. That is looking more like it was between 10 and 15,000.
It's got to be a...
That's all the genders included. That's what it is.
Oh,
God.
They were phasing every hour and they counted as a new person. UKIP's former deputy leader Suzanne Evans has quit, and she quit, I think, 5 days ago, describing a perverse direction, hoping sense would prevail, and walked out the door.
Yeah, she was on LBC earlier today, actually, and she was saying, there's been a momentum-style takeover of UKIP in terms of its membership.
Well, I find that bizarre, particularly given that Sarah Batten is already in control of UKIP and doesn't need to take over it. Or, you know, even UKIP is quite. To put it in context for anyone who's not familiar with UK politics, UKIP is quite small in terms of its actual membership as well. So I think they've got about 20 to 30,000 members.
Yeah.
I can't recall the exact number, but its nearest the third most popular party, the Liberal Democrats, has 100,000 plus members. So in order to be even a contender on that level, that's the sort of numbers of membership you need. So UKIP acts as a voting bloc, but the people who are instigating this takeover, which I assume that she's referring to not just Gerard Batten and Tommy Robinson, but also Gerard Batten choosing to associate with PJW, Sargon, and Dankula.
It sounded mostly like it was Tommy Robinson. She didn't really mention the YouTubers at all.
I'm sure she wouldn't. But they didn't. Yeah. But again, they didn't bring that many people. I think they brought. Maybe
they brought me.
Yes, but I think at most, in terms of the actual numbers which have come out, it's something in the region of up to 1,000. Up to.
And they're mostly 20 to 25.
Yeah, and we'll see how much they're actually interested in carrying on. But so there's no Momentum is a massive organisation.
Momentum.
I mean, absolutely,
and it's bloody extreme.
And pretty extreme. So the false equivalence here. I mean, really. But yes, my next article is about Susan Evans. Here we go. She says, the NEC and UKIP MEPs might be willing to turn a blind eye to the obvious attempts by Gerard and Tommy to orchestrate a Momentum-style takeover of UKIP, but I am not. I am just going to ignore the principles and what he's going to bring to the table. And she's basically let her membership lapse. Maybe this is all covering up for the fact that she just forgot to renew her membership. And that sort of thing.
I doubt it, but...
Yeah, I know. But it's nice to me.
Oh, Tommy, bless him. Look at his little puppy. Leave him alone. He's just a little lamb.
The controversial activist whose real name is...
Oh, fuck off.
Stephen Yaxley Lennon.
It's not even Yaxley.
He was leader of something else, wasn't he, as well?
Former BNP and EDL members...
They never say this about Majid Nawaz, and I like Majid Nawaz, but they never say former terrorist of his here, do they? Well, I mean, he was part of an organisation that knew about 9/11 in advance. I don't remember him telling anyone. I mean, I like him, but no one ever.
No one mentions it. No,
it is just a Tommy Robinson thing. It's very odd.
Got institutional protection, of course, but the So Tommy Robinson coming into this. Interesting that he's an advisor on rape gangs and so on. If anything, I think they should be happy that he's not standing on their court steps and instead he's suggesting what people should talk about to a party. And if they're so convinced that he's going to be bad, you can imagine them all going, "Oh, it's a terrible decision," and in private rooms high-fiving over that. But I just find it very strange. I also find the idea that UKIP is becoming the BNP very strange.
Labour's becoming the BNP. Come on.
There's so little racial politics in UKIP.
I went to their youth conference and there was absolutely nothing identitarian. Everything about it was, I don't want anything to do with identitarianism.
That's
Please make it liberal. Yeah. And when I was there, we had Labour protesters outside for Hope Not Hate. There were about 12 of them. Yeah, and they were all white, and they're all like, stand up to racist UKIP. And there were like black guys in this conference hall. I'm just like...
Are you sure they weren't yelling, stand up to races?
Very good.
They could have been shouting anything.
Hope Not Hate are absolutely bonkers.
I think it was stand up to racism.
Oh, stand up to say one and the same.
Yeah, more or less.
They all sort of blend into one with their... I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I want to say maybe they've got a point. Maybe they've got, some information that I don't have, but they just don't. There's no way to reconcile. Like, they go in, they yell for a while, they feel good about themselves, and then they go down the pub. And if you hold your conference in the morning, they won't turn up.
Oh, no, they turned up at about 9 o'clock, about an hour before it started. and they stayed for 20 minutes. They
Just as you were walking in, yeah.
Yeah. They just took a few photos. There was a guy with an EU flag, and then they just pissed off.
Selfie city and nothing better.
Yeah, it was literally virtue signaling. And then Dankula came in at about 12 o'clock, and we were all like, "Oh, did you see the protesters?" And he's like, "No, I've just come off a train." It's like, you missed out, man.
They didn't even come to protest. The man himself. Dankula, funnily enough, because obviously Sargon and Dankula had a live show last week. Something like that. It was a really good show, actually.
How was it?
Dankula gave a talk on why communism is the way forward. And every few slides, it would just flash up the death count. It was great.
Was it recorded? I'd love to see it.
Yes, I don't know when it's coming out, but it's all been professionally done.
Awesome.
And then Sargon gave a chat about sort of populist figures and stuff like that. It was really good. We all went out, and then Dankula ended up dragging me into an Uber, claiming he was going to take me home with him. Talked about how his love of traps came about, and then we ended up trying to find a drink. Couldn't find a drink anywhere but at this casino. And then he started sending me private messages of his testicles. So that was that night.
Nice.
But it was good fun. Just had a Snapchat.
Blackmail material.
Just had a super chat through from Dr. Martin Luther Pepe, your favourite super chatter, Sarah. Saying, didn't Tommy leave the EDL when it was subverted by racists? From what I remember, he's a civic nationalist. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Yes, that is correct. Tommy did indeed.
And he also headbutted a Nazi once.
Which people, again, forget. But you can't be opposed to ideas these days. You're ideophobic otherwise. Particularly when those ideas cause a great deal of damage to people. Oh, dear. But yes.
You sound weary, Mark. Weary of life.
I'm not weary of life. I love my life. Not really. I mean, whoopsie.
This is taking a dark turn.
Nah, we're all good. It's just I don't have the calming influence of Britisher here, like a natural. His voice is like a natural sedative.
Well, I'm doing my best.
That doesn't sound complimentary.
Cunderthunt says,
sends you to sleep.
Did Dankula show you his trouser snake? No, he showed me his Pringles tube and other assorted snack foods that he keeps in there.
What the fuck?
That's the way it's been described. I think it came about because someone made a Count Dankula body pillow.
I saw that.
And his fiancée Sue said that she wanted one so that she could snuggle up between the two of them. But yes, let's move on to France now, which is obviously our main topic of the evening. And things have been getting a bit hectic. So 100 schools have been blockaded. Whilst the Prime Minister, Emmanuel Macron, goes and meets President. I'm thinking of Philippe. Has met opposition party leaders as the protests are spreading across France and away. So students have had to blockade 100 schools. What's the thinking that the students are thinking? Isn't this great? We get to blockade our schools.
I know, day off.
Yeah, that'd be me.
As someone who works in the education sector, or is currently a student, I can appreciate this sentiment. Thousands of mass protesters fought running battles with police and burned cars, buildings, and barricades in the affluent areas of Paris on Saturday. The Gilets jaunes, or Yellow Vests, citizens' protest movement continued with peaceful, so they say, anti-government demonstrations. Well, it seems that the Yellow Jackets seem to be being relatively peaceful, but obviously still rowdy.
And they just high-vis. I love that.
Yeah, that's all they do. So
brown shirts, but they're good. I love that.
I find it really, traffic conceals.
I find it funny because if people wore high vises to a protest, Visai. If we wore high visai to a protest in London, as long as if it wasn't stewards, you would be arrested, because in this country it is illegal to wear a uniform to a protest. Ever since the brown shirts, effectively, or because of
uniform.
Them.
Wow.
because, you know, in the same way, which I discovered when I organised the Free Dankula protest, because basically we were considering having T-shirts or something to that effect, and they basically read the legislation. They're like, if we turn up in all the same T-shirt, we're going to prison. So you're not allowed to do that.
We did end up giving out having T-shirts, though, didn't we?
Well, there was one guy turned up with about 20 or 30 T-shirts, and I think
bless. Couldn't do anything with them.
Well, I think 20 or 30 people ended up wearing them.
I've still got mine.
But obviously, because we weren't all in them, it wasn't considered uniform as such. High school students who have been protesting against changes to colleges and the university system seized on the mood of protest to step up blockade.
Any excuse.
Any excuse.
Any excuse, the little bastards.
You know this new fuel tax? It makes me really, really angry about the schooling system. Yes, 17 have been arrested after riot police were called to Jean-Pierre Timbaud High School in Aubervilliers, in northern Paris suburbs, where a car was overturned and bins were set alight. I hate school. I'm going to turn this car over and set it on fire.
I sympathise.
Yeah. To be fair, the French don't fuck about in riots. Like,
they don't.
They're crazy.
I'm waiting for one of them to start wheeling out the guillotines, you know.
Oh, man, I'd watch that.
I mean, I'd protest it, but I'd watch that shit in a second.
So do you ever just wonder, just think, oh, I'd love to have just been a fly on the wall for the French Revolution. Just the streets have been running with blood. It's been fascinating.
God, you're fucking mental.
Interesting part of history.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's what it is.
Fly on the wall. Hey, I didn't say participant.
Oh, well.
Silly Sailor has donated £2. Thank you very much, sir. And says, are you discussing consent videos trend in news? What? Consent videos trend in news. Message something else in chat about that, because I don't know about this. So that's news to me. We shall.
You don't have to video someone's consent now, are you?
Oh, that was right. Yes.
I don't know.
It's genuine. I saw this earlier. Guys have been. There's been a massive upturn in guys literally asking women to record their consent.
Really?
So that because they're so afraid of being basically tarnished with a fault.
Oh my god! Don't leave the camera on afterwards.
Well, you'd have to, wouldn't you? Because otherwise, even in this case, if someone's going to give a false rape accusation, they'll say they pressured me into giving my consent on video, and then I withdrew it afterwards.
Oh, let's be real.
There you go.
Let's be real here. How long before it's just going to be no sex before marriage again? We're going to come full circle.
No sex after marriage. Just don't go near her.
I mean, there's not sex after marriage anyway, is there? But not these days.
And you're not even married.
Only after divorce again.
But no. So here we have. There was this crazy. I did meet this crazy person the other day who said, "I really want to marry a Jewish guy. He seems to have the balance between religiosity and spirituality about right, and they marry in 2 weeks, so that's a bonus." And I was like, okay.
That's not a bad point.
Oh dear.
Logic.
Back to France. An 80-year-old woman has also died in Marseille after she was pushing her shutters closed because a riot was going on outside, and someone decided to throw a grenade.
Holy shit!
Tear gas grenade.
As a gas grenade. As police confronted protesters, and she died after going in for surgery.
Was she hit directly by it?
I don't know. Maybe it was quite comical in that she only just got the shutters closed, but the grenade went through at the same time. It's very
not comical at all.
No, not really. Look, it's one of these. This is one of the most. I mean, it's a really horrendous time for France. I'm trying to make light, you know. 11 fueled.
Can't argue.
Thanks for the tweet, Silly Sailor. I'll check that out in a bit. 11 fuel depots across France have been shut down after being blockaded. More than 70 petrol stations have run out of fuel, and restrictions were put in place in Brittany on how much you can.
I thought they were protesting fuel.
So no, they're protesting the levy on fuel, so the tax. And
it was meant to be. Sorry, it was actually meant to be a joke, but it didn't come across very well.
No, it didn't.
Oh,
No.
that was really
Shut up.
An opinion poll has found that 72% of the French support the protest movement, despite the fact that it's ground the entire country to a halt.
Oh yeah, day off work.
Effectively. Yeah, because that's just what they're thinking about.
They are French, man.
Their cars are on fire, but at least it's a day off work.
I'm gonna give a damn about that. I know.
So just because you would accept your car being set on fire, Sarah.
I walk to work, but thank you.
Of course.
Hey, same.
Yeah.
Hey.
But,
Eco warriors.
Well, sort of. I'm just
one of those dirty public transport people, me. But yes, so the rise in environmental taxes on fuel has morphed into opposition to the government of the centrist president Emmanuel Macron.
hell.
Every time they
Where's your Overton?
every time they call him a centrist, it just makes me laugh.
Why do they do that?
Economically, he's relatively centrist, from what I've heard, but ideologically, he is utterly, convicted of the European empire, and he's one of the main proponents of the EU army.
And he doesn't think nationalism and patriotism are the same thing, more or less.
No, I can't remember.
Nationalism is unpatriotic, doesn't he?
Yeah,
something like that.
That was a hell of a tweet.
I know.
I can't remember whether or not, he, like Merkel, has refused to hold a French or German, in her case, flag at ceremony and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Really? Yeah, Merkel didn't, did she?
Again, because they're they're statist Europeans, and I imagine they define themselves as European more than they define themselves as German or French.
Oh yeah.
The worst type of people.
Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. So there's a sense that the tax system is unfair, that it favours the rich. Funnily enough, if you tax the basic goods and services, VAT effectively much higher than you tax income or anything to that extent, you're going to get the pushback. The Prime Minister is expected to meet protesters' representatives on Tuesday, but the grassroots movement, which emerged on social media, has no leadership nor a defined structure because they're just rioters, basically. The Yellow Jackets appear to be actually protesting, and then rioters are jumping on it to protest the government, as opposed to the Yellow Jackets protest of the fuel tax specifically, and the effect that that's having on the poorest. So the rioters are taking advantage. I hate French names. Jacqueline Mourad, one of the protest movement's prime instigators, said scrapping the fuel tax. I just hate pronouncing them, okay? I don't hate the French. I love the French. But
Why?
I have
Calm down, I know, yeah.
Scrapping the fuel tax is a prerequisite for any discussion with the government.
Good
so
man.
They're saying, look, you have to do that. So not only because the fuel tax has existed previously, it's just being jacked up.
Yeah, it's been raised.
Now they're saying abolish it.
Too much. Yeah.
Completely, you've gone too far here. Thinking that, as we've always done for 30 years, that you make a little symbolic gesture and then we sweep the dust under the carpet doesn't resolve the fundamental structural problem, the government spokesperson Benjamin Griveaux said, implying the government would not make major concessions. Okay, so the French government basically is stonewalling, and despite the fact that you've got over 2/3 of your country opposed to something that you've done, particularly given how disparate groups of political people are, the Yellow Jackets, from what I hear, simply don't ask who their fellow Yellow Jackets support in political sense, and they all unite behind this one issue.
Fair enough.
Hotel unions obviously are complaining that bookings are down. And
sometimes a big holiday actually because we'd be cheap.
But this is a big thing as well because it is Christmas, and as much as it seems silly, a lot of people come to Paris at Christmas for the romantic atmosphere, etc.
I was going to say they save a few quid,
and the go to sunny Mogadishu instead,
On the outskirts of Paris.
Oh dear, little Mogadishu. That we call that one.
Pity.
Oh, Frenchies. Terrible.
But there's that side of things. So obviously France is in a bit of a state.
It just seems to be Paris, to be fair. But is it happening other places in France, or is it just Paris?
It seems to just be Paris,
it
isn't it?
was just Paris, but it seems to have spread to Toulouse.
Right.
If
To win or to lose.
Indeed.
Making
myself laughing.
But here we go. We have a ritual. There is a ritual after French riots, which requires government protesters and the media to all insist it was the work of a minority. The way the protest movement shucks off responsibility, the government pretends the problem is not as serious as it appears, and the media avoid accusations of tarring everyone with the same brush.
I'm not being funny, but wasn't it like 72% of people support this?
Yeah. So anyone who witnessed what happened on Saturday knows this is pious rubbish. And this is a BBC News article, by the way. They're not normally this emphatic. The notion that the vast majority of the yellow vests were tutuing in the background, tutting in the background, tutuing. I for some reason I had tutti in my head. You know, like tutti. I couldn't change that. Wait, it always makes me think of the damn dentist Tutti Frutti. Never mind. We'll talk about this later. They used to have a gel, okay? It used to smell like Tutti Frutti. In the background, shaking their heads in shocked condemnation of the violent few is unsustainable. Most of the yellow vests who arrived at the Arc de Triomphe knew perfectly well what was going to happen. They may not all have been at the battlefront, which was taken over by professional revolutionaries of the far left and the far right, working, a fascinating sign of the times, side by side. Yes, they don't talk.
How do they know all this?
They just don't talk. Well, it's, you know, they have correspondence there, but
it just looks like an assertion, though.
Well, welcome to news, you know.
Well, yeah, just I don't know.
Speculation.
We've got this curious video here. Let's see what it has to say. It's all in. There's no sound.
The yellow vest. So unthreatening.
Why do they run 3 cars?
Big family, I assume. Don't know.
Or maybe they just all live at home. I mean, it's not that uncommon here, but I thought they had more of a culture of chucking their kids out than we do at the moment.
God, I hope we don't get that culture back.
You intend to live with your parents for the rest of time, is that right?
I don't intend to, but if I get kicked out,
Is this going anywhere? I mean, it's only got 10 to 30 seconds left, is it?
Class of the rich.
Grief.
Oh.
Yikes.
Smashing up the
Imagine you remember May Day just earlier in the year and last year. I mean, just the World Cup, to be fair.
Yeah. A civil war over attacks. Well,
such drama queens, aren't they?
Well, I was going to say, America did the same thing, to be fair.
Well, true.
For a 2%
yeah, good
tax.
point.
Yeah.
So the Yellow Jackets were not far behind the rioters, and they certainly weren't tooting. The point is that there is in France a tolerance of street violence incomprehensible to outsiders. Thank the country's revolutionary past. Maybe just the French just like beating people up, especially themselves.
Yeah.
Today, among the millions who support the Yellow Jackets, and their basic point about the fact that the middle class are disappearing, you will get 3 kinds of reaction to Saturday's riots. I don't like the violence, but if you push people too far, what do you expect? If there hadn't been violence, why would the government take the problem seriously? The violence was provoked by the police, and the French media are hiding the truth.
God.
Fake news.
Well, wasn't there some sort of video where people were convinced it was a sniper shot?
Oh, there's a thing about where I think people are overblowing it, but where the Prime Minister has gone to try and meet the protesters, they did have snipers.
But I mean, wasn't there a video of someone falling to their knees and it looked like they'd been shot by a sniper?
I haven't
not see that.
No, if you can find it, we'll
dig it up. Hang on, let's have a look.
I was going to say that snipers are usually at Paris riots. It's just a thing in France because obviously they're always violent. They always just need snipers, just in case.
Because a couple of people were shot at the Hollande speech last year by accident, supposedly. I mean, I've got it, but it's a dodgy news site, so you know.
Well, we're on the BBC, so it can't be much worse.
Good call. Just all right for lol's sake. There you are.
See.
It's Tehran news.
People couldn't see the video. Okay, that's not good.
So we just had dead air.
Basically, just sitting there, not doing anything.
Oh God!
It's just YouTube coming after me preemptively.
Yeah.
You can see snipers. Good call. Oh my God.
Yeah, they are usually there in French riots, I think.
Damn.
You got something?
French don't miss a beat.
Yeah, they don't.
I love that because they have their police force on bicycles. They just like sell such pansies.
Yeah. Present to everyone. Right, so this should work this time. Here we are. Yellow vest protester being hit while surrendering. This is obviously the very reputable.
I said I announced that it wasn't reputable.
Everyone blames Sarah.
I gave a disclaimer.
Let's have a look. Hopefully, we'll be able to see this with this amazing like $5 intro.
I love it.
It's better than mine.
I think that's a finger pointing at stream. It's not a shotgun. It's not a barrel of a gun, is it?
It's not someone just putting a shotgun at their own stream. Yeah, they're the snipers. I don't know. I don't know what it's pointing at.
Champs-Élysées.
He's just stargazing, right? He's there to look at.
Yeah, that's a telescope. That
Saturn has moved into view of Orion. You know,
Mm.
He's just polishing it. He loves it.
Yeah.
Very. I mean,
It's not really rioty there, is it?
Hang on, there was someone. I'm sure I saw a video. So is this the right one? Someone who looked like they were. Someone in the chat must know. Chat must know. Someone sort of fell, and it looked as though they'd been shot by a sniper. Ah, that was a boring video. Not bad.
that's quite all right. Very strange. But
I trust chat. They'll know.
Viva Iran, says Ali in chat. Finger pointing is pointing at a man that appears to be shot. A trace around follows in the first clip. Show it again.
I swear I did see one. I don't know where it is though. You know, I'm gonna Twitter it.
Oh my God!
I'm determined to shade it.
This guy. Let's see if we can.
See.
I'm gonna look closely.
So this guy here.
It's on his knee. He kind of just falls to his knees. Yeah.
It was Tim Poole. I heard report this. So just saying.
So did you see this right? So watch this guy here.
Oh yeah, shit.
And
We missed that entirely.
And then a tracer. There he goes.
I couldn't quite see the tracer, but
it's like
there.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, I saw it that time.
Flashes across the.
Totes a sniper.
Flashes across the stream.
There we are.
Pushy.
You'd hear a gunshot, surely.
Well,
it depends on the distance.
Silencer. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Silencers.
Silencers are still very loud. Yeah. They don't actually silence the sound. No, they're suppresses. They suppress the sound of the gunshot. They don't silence. It makes it safe to use without ear protectors.
Protagonist says that was a swamp gas reflecting from Jupiter. I don't know if I'm convinced that that's an actual sniper shot, but
no, totally is.
Course, edgy you are, Sarah. Always leaning on the conspiracy theories.
It's Tehran news. What do you come on? Bonafide fact check.
That's beyond reputable.
I just would like to point
Or
out
reprehensible.
that sniper shots tend to do quite a lot of damage at the impact site. So
That's also true.
it's not. He doesn't just sink to his knees if he gets hit by one. He kind of gets blown off his feet. Joel Kelly says, "Are you showing real life gore now? Seems immoral." No, we're not showing gore. We're okay.
It's just a man getting shot. Jesus.
Yeah, pussy. Sorry. I meant pansy, sorry.
Demonetized. Thanks, Sarah.
Hell.
I actually wasn't meaning to say that. I meant pansy.
Fucking Sarah's abusing the chat. Fuck it.
know. Sorry, chat, love you.
And John Stewart points out, would a sniper use tracers? I think unlikely if he was
You never know.
shooting this one random protester who apparently offended more than most.
We'll see.
But apparently the last reaction here, which we were talking about, the fact that they're saying the police are provoking the violence and the French media are hiding the police's actions, is apparently surprisingly widespread. The sign of the conspiracy mentality that so easily pervades any social media movement. Oh yes, you never know quite what's true, and if you're on one side of the city with only access to Facebook or whatever it is, and someone says, "Oh, there's a group of protesters on the other side of the city who've just been hit by the police in this particular way," you're probably going to be the kind of person who gets incensed at that, and regardless of whether or not it's true. But as this article goes on, for President Emmanuel Macron, then, it's most unwise to treat the riots simply as a law and order issue. The protesters who turned out in Paris are recoiling in horror at the monstrosity they've conjured up, and they are merely keeping it on a leash. They're waiting for the president to enact the next step in the elaborate pas de deux, which is French social negotiation. What the ritual, they're going to summon something.
They called it a ritual before.
What the ritual requires now is a gesture from the government that shows it has not just listened, but it is prepared to appease. This is how French social conflicts have been resolved. Except that, of course, Macron was elected on a platform of standing up to this sort of thing. There will be no change of direction, he repeats to all who will hear, because it will store up worse problems in the future. It's like he sees it as, I guess, disciplining naughty children.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you let them get away with this, they'll keep going, sort of thing.
Mm.
Obviously, the pressure on him is now enormous, given that the fuel depots are all barricaded. Businesses are really being hit hard, etc. And you get this sort of thing where you just get, can you imagine that on the streets?
Oh, that's so bad for the environment.
Where you are, like, I'm assuming that people can see this aftermath of protests.
I don't know. I sort of want to blame leftists, but I don't know whether. I don't know where they are. They probably are. I'll go for that.
I mean, this is what happens when you tax the people into oblivion. To effectively.
Can't I just write a strong word? Have a word,
You go over there, Sarah. Put them straight. Put
have
the
a word
government
that fire.
Then put the protesters. Good grief.
Well, you're not going to listen to that, though, are you?
You're the type of person to tell them to eat cake.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of Rice. Rice did nothing wrong.
Jesus.
On the other hand, cleaning companies in Paris are booming.
Oh, bless.
Grief.
Macron de Michon.
Yeah, you can do the French reading from now on.
That's all right.
So this is obviously the crucial moment. Are they going to agree to suspend the rise? Are they going to announce an above-inflation rise in minimum wage? Are they going to release money to compensate the poor? Any of this is going to smack of old French and destroy Macron's political persona as the harbinger of the new. I feel like Macron is a bit like the Tony Blair of France. Some would say it would write off any chance of further reform in the rest of his mandate, and so on. So it's a big dilemma. So this idea that French politics is different to other politics, and they're much more willing to use violent protest. which makes more sense
They
now,
are
I guess.
often in a bit of a protest. It's sort of every couple of months, isn't it?
I guess it makes more sense that he's trying to stamp it out, but his stance being a bit more staunch than than we would expect. But at the same time, 72%. I mean, you've got to admit that some protests are more justified than others, and this is one which you should probably pay attention to.
But it's just a minority.
It's a minority of 72%.
Yeah, but we like minorities. I thought they were like the thing,
Protect the 62% minority. Binary surfers at £85, Thicky says, for your soap, Vaseline, and cigarettes in a gulag after your pending inquiry.
Vaseline.
Nice.
Our extra large tub of Vaseline.
Ugh.
There we go.
Gross.
Very gross. So, is that side of things? I've already talked about the 80-year-old woman who got hit.
Lived in a shoe.
Lived in a shoe, yes.
Remember that?
School blockade.
That song?
That little nursery rhyme, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a couple of extra stories now, which are a little less dramatic, I suppose. Although one of them is peak drama. I mean, peak drama.
Go.
I'm going to save that for last, right? So,
Boo.
no, it's terrible. So we're going to talk about, as we go, Sir David Attenborough.
Hey.
He's talking about your favorite topic, Harry-Ann, climate change. About it being our greatest threat.
Is it?
It depends. It depends how you look at it. I mean, if you're not starving, then yes, maybe. But
it's humanity's greatest threat in thousands of years. I'm pretty sure we've only been around for thousands of years, but
yeah,
well,
more or less.
A little bit longer.
In a civilized capacity.
We haven't done 100,000, have we? Like humans, I mean, specifically.
First Homo sapiens are probably about 300,000 years ago, I think.
I don't know. I don't know, because written history is only like 12,000, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's written history.
But oh my god, like it takes a while to evolve a language, to be fair.
I don't know. I made one up when I was 6 years old, and it wasn't that difficult.
Did anyone else?
Did anyone else understand it?
Did your imaginary friend
my
understand?
brother and my toys understood this?
Was it written in dirt on the wall?
Good to think. No. Although that does remind me of a funny story where I was told to go play outside with my brother on a rainy day. We went outside. We decided we'd make mud pies. So you get sandcastle buckets, and being young boys as you do, you fill the bucket with bits of mud and grass and all sorts, and then you decide where you want to hurl it. And we decided that the crisp white wall of the house was a great idea. And every single time I go back to my hometown and I go past that house, I see that stain about 30 feet, 20 feet up.
They never bothered painting over it.
Well, it's just such an awkward position to paint over, and my dad still maintains it devalued the house.
Is it your house? It's your house, is it?
It was my dad's old house.
Oh, bless.
And ended up he was maintaining. I think he covered it with something, but it wasn't
a nice tapestry.
Well, it
was
the outside of the house, and it was quite a large area. So I'm pretty sure he painted over it with like a base layer on the days when he would visit, and then of course, but he didn't paint over it with anything robust.
Memories.
An NSO anecdote for you. There you go.
I enjoy that. A little epitaph for you.
So David Attenborough says that climate change is going to lead to the collapse of civilization and the extinction of much of the natural world.
I think we already knew that, though, didn't we?
Catholic.
I mean, sort of.
Sort of. I mean, it's only a dystopian future.
Well, we've had a collapse of the natural world before, and we're still living. So we've had 5 big ones.
5 big ones. What are those 5 big ones?
I can't remember all of them.
Any one of them.
I think the PT boundary was the big one. That was
PT boundary.
Yeah, what was it? I can't remember the names of the periods, but it was basically 93% of ocean life just dead, extinction.
Really?
We lost loads of it.
Why?
Now,
What happened?
it was a mixture of things.
Overfishing in the North Sea. This is why we need the EU's fishing tariffs.
It wasn't that, unfortunately. Big meteor hits Earth, covers it in dust. You've also, at the same time, got big lava traps. I mean, literally thousands of square meters of lava just coming out, constantly spewing out all this crap in the air that's just going to completely change the environment. And there's probably a few other things that we don't fully understand, but those two big things together, that just cause the oceans to totally change environment. So you just lose 93% of your species in the space of about 10,000 years.
Like welcome to the Chad 7%. You know.
Yeah. Exactly.
Joel Kelly has donated £2. Thank you very much. It says Vaseline for when Dankula joins you in the gulag. Oh please!
Is that robust enough?
He'd be my bitch.
Oh no, he wouldn't.
My prison wife, not the other way around. Oh my
god, Dankula would beat your ass, mate.
He would absolutely.
He'd try. He only knows defensive moves these days. He can't hold me off forever.
Whatever you say.
Back to climate change, which is going to destroy not me, but the rest of the natural world.
God.
He says, obviously, the collapse of civilizations on the horizon. He's taking up the people's seat, representing the people at COP24, supposedly acting as the link between the public and the policymakers. And so he's obviously pushing. So it seems like a little bit of a circle jerk there, but
it will be at the UN. But it's just the way they frame climate change. It just annoys the crap out of me.
What is it that annoys you?
Well, they only do it. They only speak about it in terms of what CO2 is going to do. They don't talk about anything else that can affect the climate. So it's like, oh look, 1.5% rising in like 10 years or whatever. Like in 10 years, we're going to have mass starvation. Other things are released that actually cool the earth from humans that they don't ever talk about. And then when the CO2 is in the air, you end up with more water evaporating, which makes more water vapor. And initially, that actually reflects light back out to space. But it's also a greenhouse gas, so it reflects it back in. So it's about, I think when you double the amount of CO2 you have in the atmosphere, you only add about 0.5 degree centigrade worldwide. And that's assuming if that's equal around the world, because some places can make it cool down. Because you've got the Gulf Stream going through the Atlantic, that if that ends up stopping, you end up cooling down the UK and warming up America. So there's just so many different things going on, but it's just framed in the CO2. Like there's loads more you can do.
Damn, you're clued up on this. I really need to brush up on my. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah,
you should do more videos on it.
I do.
Oh, did you? Actually, I didn't know you had a channel. I'll have to check it out.
Oh
yes, I will link it in the description when the stream is done.
Thank you.
So
thank you for shilling me. That's all I ever wanted.
What has happened with?
Oh, that as well.
Oh, let's see. Complaints on baby, it's cold outside. Citing Me Too.
Yep.
This is amazing. I know that.
I thought that wasn't this a problem last year. This song.
They released. Yeah. There was this thing last year where they released a version of it, which basically had no smuttiness at all. No. It's your choice, baby. He's not allowed to pressure or suggest anything. He's basically he can make the initial announcement, and then when she's being conflicted about it, all he's allowed to say is, "Well, it's your choice. Well, it's your choice. You have the right to say no."
That was so funny.
It was so cringe. Oh. But clearly, the original version has been played on a radio station in there. So Christmas Classic played in many, but a station in Cleveland, Ohio decided to remove Baby It's Cold Outside from its playlist following complaints from listeners. Now, what's the gathering that it's a listener, right? It's not listeners.
Exactly.
So there you go. Right. So a listener said the song was inappropriate and at odds with the Me Too movement.
Oh my God, they're so boring.
This song is clearly Bill Cosbying people right now. And but funnily enough, a poll on the station's Facebook page showed the majority didn't want them to ban the song. 94% it's the classic. Get over it.
Yeah, that's so boring.
Oh dear! I love the
radio.
I love the like in the no bit. And it said that although the song was written in a different era, the lyrics felt manipulative and wrong.
Turn off the radio then.
Basically, let people who understand what it is enjoy it. The world we live in is extra sensitive now. No, some people are, and you're cucking to them. And people get easily offended. But in a world where #MeToo has finally given women the voice they deserve...
Oh, please.
I mean, the number of people...
voice now, Sarah.
I mean, you could say the first few people who did Me Too and the whole thing with Weinstein was well-deserved. However, so many people have co-opted Me Too for false allegations.
Well, didn't an MP commit suicide over it as well?
Really?
I'm pretty sure someone committed suicide.
You've also got, like, the Me Too activists who turn up to bloody Brett Kavanaugh's hearing, like, screaming, "Believe women," and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Done wrong.
Woman.
You said it, not me. But
Believe woman.
You got to respect woman. What's wrong with you?
Woman's is...
Apparently, Will Ferrell actually covered it in Elf, but I've not seen Elf in a long time.
Did you? Oh, I love Elf.
There we go. I should
never seen it.
watch that again. I watched it a long time ago.
I like it.
Data form, everyone knows what the song is. I simply must go. The answer is no. What's in this drink? And it's been interpreted by some as a reference to date rape. Alcohol! It's talking about how alcohol impacts your decision making. It's not talking about what's in this drink. Oh, retinol, dear.
Also, I mean, he doesn't rape her. He just sort of tries
invites her. And exactly. He's trying on. He's being a man.
The man's just a standard Chad.
You notice that at no point does he force her to do anything.
Just it's warm in here, and you'd be very welcome to stay.
Can we also point out that in the film, there's actually in one scene it's a man singing it to a woman, and then later on it's a woman singing it to a man.
Interesting.
Yeah, they reverse it. Like, but no one talks about that.
There was Zora says there was a Swedish professor who offed himself for the feminist cause. A Welsh assembly member for the Labour Party killed himself.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Sounds right. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What for a false allegation?
I don't think they ever found out if it was false, just an allegation in general, which you shouldn't.
Like, regardless of whether it's true.
Yeah, even if it was true, you shouldn't.
No, sure, but it would just be so much worse.
Yeah.
Cumberthon says, "What's in this drink? 2 in the pink, 1 in the." I'm not finishing that
sentence. That's a great meme. Like, come on, man up.
Check out the BBC story on that page where it's okay to be different. Yes, I briefly touched on this. This one doesn't offend me particularly in my capacity as prominent YouTube commentator, obviously, which I clearly am. But basically, these two guys who are on the autistic spectrum said they wanted to open a comic shop, which his mum thought was ridiculous for a while. One brother is unemployed and one had a degree in philosophy but was struggling with work. And it turns out that 1 in 6 people with autism find employment, etc. And fewer still find jobs that match their abilities. We knew the cards were stacked against them, she says. So the idea of a comic shop grew on her. And eventually she used her savings to buy a quaint Tudor shop in Huntingdon and Cambridgeshire. And 7 years ago, Niche Comics was born. Here they are.
That's quite sweet.
It's such a wholesome story. Thank you for recommending it, chat.
That's nice. How are they doing then? Like, are they getting on?
I have no idea.
So they've just opened it now? Or?
7 years ago. And they are a reminder that it's okay to not be like everyone else. See, this is...
Well, that's quite sweet.
I mean, it's sweet. I don't think it's necessarily that, but it's if it makes them happy, like I'm more, I'm not gonna crap on that. And then there we go. So they're talking about how it's escapism and how comics make them feel that you know, all these heroes go through all sorts of conflicts, and as someone with autism, you know, they go through the difficulties of interacting with the world differently, and they said that it helps normalize it for them, which is.
See, I'm so used to like oppression stories now that quite wholesome things you end up just sort of going, oh, not another story. But I think that's actually sweet.
No, this is lovely. The brothers relish acting as guides in the comic universe, introducing customers to new comics, and they handpick the comics that they sell in their own shop.
Cute.
It's an embarrassment of riches. Says
Where is it? It's in
Cambridge.
I never go to Cambridge, but if I do, I'll have to go.
The brothers can pinpoint where every comic is and lead customers straight to them. There's some friendly rivalry when it comes to generating sales, and they have different interests. So there's that, and they're very interested in literature, plays, and visual stuff. They struggle with the mathematics of it all, which is where they claim their tax exemption. No, I'm joking. So they said letting loose 2 young adults with autism was quite a risky business. Now, I think that's quite insulting to people with autism.
I thought they were meant to be good at maths.
You're thinking Asperger's, but
autism too, no?
It depends. I mean, the fixation on one particular subject typically tends to be a thing. So customer payments are a big problem, but they've got an interface now where everything's integrated and they don't require numbers. They just beep the prices, and that's that. And so their mum plays her main role in the shop as interferer, and so on. So financially, it has always remained in the black, although the brothers only draw in a small wage. But you know what? If they can live off it and they're happy, why not? You know,
exactly.
Yeah.
Very wholesome. There you go.
See, your chat probably wanted us to take the mick out of that, and we're actually quite nice when it comes down to it.
George says, water with the wine, Joan armor trading, a woman's account of actual date rape, but it doesn't fit the Me Too narrative because she doesn't regret it.
Wait, what?
What? I'm going to have to go back into the world of horrible news. Thank you so much.
It appears to be a song.
Oh, I see. It's a song about it.
Yeah.
Lyrics. Let's have a look at the lyrics. What does this song mean? Met him on a Monday. He said he loved me so. Walked me to my door, before it my living room. I thought there was no need to worry when he took me in his arms. Drank some whiskey. Hung his coat up on the stand. Let's keep going. The man was getting hot. I had no strength to make him stop. I guess it's too late, but I'll know next time to mix some water with the wine.
Jesus.
Good grief, this is dark.
It's a bit, isn't it?
And he keeps going. So she's, yeah. So she's
I bet it's a banger, though, to be fair.
Oh, he put a pillow. A banger. I felt the taste of last night's love on my lips. I wasn't sure if I dreamt it or not, but there across the pillow was the face I had forgot. I read that incorrectly the first time, and I thought he'd put the pillow on her face, and I thought that's really dark. But then, that's when he said he loved me. Could be the truth this time. He put his arms around me. Fever's starting. So she got a bit drunk, had some fun, wasn't sure if she regretted it or not. And it doesn't fit with the narrative. Interesting. So there's that. So
regretful sex.
Regretful sex, or not sure if I regret it sex, you know. Here I have the drama story for us now. Okay.
Oh, let's go.
The crazy story.
I can't wait.
Also, people are saying that the autistic brothers will be so happy to have my irrelevant approval.
All three of us.
Oh yes.
Amazing. Yeah. It warms my heart.
Thank you.
If you'd like to read the title for me, Sarah, I'd appreciate it.
Nigerian President Buhari denies death and body double rumours.
So he's denied rumours that he has died and been replaced by a lookalike.
Who did they ask though to confirm or deny?
I have no idea. Some people thought he'd been cloned. But it's the real me, I assure you, Mr. Buhari said. And you could just imagine people in the background going, That's exactly what you would say.
Indeed.
That's just what a body double would say.
Yes,
Yeah.
replace him with a 76-year-old, no doubt, as well.
Oh,
The rumours that he had been replaced with a body double called Jabril from Sudan.
that's awfully specific.
It's very specific. That's been widely shared online. The 75-year-old Mr. Buhari, who is seeking re-election in February next year, has been beset by ill health and was on medical leave in the UK, health tourism. Maybe he's paying for it, who knows, in 2017.
He's not.
He revealed after his return to Nigeria that I've never been so sick and did not disclose what he was suffering from. He insists now he is in good health. So according to Fact Check, the rumours began late last year and have appeared over 500,000 times.
Bloody hell, really?
A former aide to Mr. Buhari's predecessor, Good Luck Jonathan. What a name. His name is literally Good Luck. And this is a common thing in a lot of parts of the third world and in China as well. It's just like these names.
Jonathan.
His name is Good Luck Jonathan.
Johnny B. Good.
Well, it's like I can't remember what the Chinese because it's the Chinese for it, but there are kids in China called Olympic Games because it's considered lucky, or named after specific dates because like September.
I'm pretty sure a girl name in Russia is just Power Station when it's translated.
Power Station.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's cool.
It's like my favorite is seeing like Japanese people with tattoos of English words on them because
I know. Yeah, and then there was a great article out a few months ago where basically tattooists abroad in like Thailand and whatnot just revealing the kind of things they tattoo when Brits come abroad and think it's just interesting symbol meaning like unity or harmony that just means I don't know, like ham sandwich or something.
I had a mate who had South Korean text down his ribs. But and it was actually something meaningful for him. But he always used to say it was so that he didn't forget his favorite order at his local. And that was what he would tell people because he was so sick to death of explaining it to people.
That's actually, I would admire that even more.
So yeah, that was
God.
So Good Luck Jonathan is among high-profile individuals who have promoted this rumor. Of course, Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of secessionist group Indigenous People of Biafra, LPOB, has also been fueling. It's an L, I think.
Indigenous begins with an I.
Has also been fueling the rumors.
LPOB.
In one IPOB. In one. Oh, of course it is. Damn it. In one instance, Mr. Kanu shared 2 images of Buhari, one reversed, to allege that the Nigerian leader who's right-handed was using his left hand, therefore proving that he was a body double. You'd think that any body double worth his salt would make sure that he got the hand correct. So it's like he's tweeted this out as well. It's like here we have a supposed old man who's bringing into question the age as well.
Yeah,
between 76 and 85 years, like because they don't know his actual age. That suddenly switched his writing hand from right to left to right. Could they clarify this? Could the handlers of Jabril clarify this mix-up? We are patiently waiting for answers, and I believe millions of people deserve an explanation at NGR president.
Shit's going down in Nigeria. Holy crap.
Amazing.
I mean, they might be right.
Oh, dear.
Oh, God. That image might be flipped. I don't know. If I could see the watch on his other hand, like, I don't know.
Didn't he used to think this about Saddam Hussein? Or he used to have a lot of doubles, actually, didn't he? Anyway,
he did, but he was just this idea of
they were all right-handed at least.
This is like the equivalent. This is the Nigerian. This is the Nigerian equivalent of demanding Barack Obama's birth certificate, right?
Well, there were some errors on that birth certificate, though.
Like nearly, I can't remember much about the birth certificate.
There was some serious. Well, don't get me on the conspiracies.
But apparently 2,000 people are already talking about this. A scene from Face Off has also been used by those promoting rumours to show how a dead Bahari's face could have been transplanted onto a body double.
Good film. Good film.
Oh my god.
And obviously the technology clearly exists. Mr. Bahari, who was in Poland attending UN climate change conference, was asked about the rumours during a meeting on Sunday with Nigerians in Poland. His personal assistant shared a video of his answer. I assume he basically... Oh, yes, he says, "Somebody just thought I am cloned. It is real me, I assure you."
That's hilarious.
Oh, God.
Said that these rumours about his health and identity were ignorant and also irreligious. Apparently it flies in the face of religion. A lot of people hope that I died during my ill health. Some even reached out to the vice president to consider them to be his deputy because they assumed I was dead. This embarrassed him a lot, and of course he visited me when I was in London. It's the real me, I assure you. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, 72, has emerged as Bahari's main challenger in next year's election. Can you imagine if our politicians were, sort of in their 70s and 80s when they ran for sort of presidency and that sort of thing?
I know, it's peculiar, isn't it?
Seems relatively unthinkable. Although we have Treason May, who looks like Emperor Palpatine without the clothes, and we have Jeremy Corbyn, who looks like he hasn't had any protein in about 40 years.
Standard for a socialist.
Yeah,
it goes on. Here we go. Yeah. Many Nigerians are surprised that Bahari chose to respond to this claim because it's been a joke for months, generally dismissed as fake news and largely ignored by the media. It has, however, been used by his detractors to call into question the state of his health.
It's hilarious.
The statement that "I am definitely not a clone" may lead to greater focus on his health as he prepares for the election campaign. So, there we go. That was
That's quite hilarious. I'm going to be looking this up all evening now.
That was the crazy story of the time. I think that's that. Twisted with sarcasm says, "You laugh, but I still think Lily Savage was replaced by Paul O'Grady."
Good one.
Oh, God.
Strong.
I like it.
Right. A bit of a shorter one this evening, obviously, but I think that's about everything that we have to talk about.
That was fun.
So there we go. Yeah. But it was really good to see you all. Obviously, a shame Britisher couldn't make it, but I hope that myself and my guests have entertained. I was joined this evening by Zarathustra. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
And by Harrion Gledive, and you can search for him on YouTube, or you can there'll be a link in the description in about 5 to 10 minutes.
Yes.
And that sort of thing. So thank you.
Someone's just said, there was not a PVC pigeon version of this? That actually would have been great.
That would have been amazing. That was. Thank you for joining me, Harrion.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Have a great week, and see you on the next one. Good night.
Good night.